Hello everyone, I'm just a regular office worker who likes history. Last time, I mentioned that America declared its independence. But we were still at war. It's because Britain didn't recognize it. Why? This time, I'd like to talk about the struggle to gain independence. The War of Independence had two major stages. First, it started in 1775, and the peace treaty was signed in 1783. The first half of the war was fought for about 10 years or so. The first half, well, to be honest, is a family feud. For other countries, it was just like, oh, the English are fighting each other. But in the middle of that, there was a battle. Other countries got involved in it. So it turned into an international war. Therefore, the War of Independence had two major stages. The first was the Battle of Lexington-Concord, which I explained before. The American side won that battle. But the scale of this battle was so small that it didn't mean much in the bigger picture. So the American side has been doing well from the beginning. It wasn't like that at all. Instead, they struggled a lot in the first half. Since it was originally a colony of England, the quality of its army was not as strong as the British Army. They had a hard time at first. The first one was a conflict in Massachusetts. After that, they went to Canada. Well, why was there a fight in Canada? They have initially been French. They tried to make them their allies. But the British forces in Canada held them back. They were beaten to a pulp. If they had won this battle, the eastern part of Canada might have been the United States now. Well, there was an incident like that because the British Army occupied New York. There was the Continental Congress, and also took Philadelphia. That's why they struggled so much. This Continental side was indeed not good. At that time, a man named Benjamin Franklin, one of the drafters of the Declaration of Independence, went to France. We will see him on the $100 bill of the U.S. currency. He's like the American version of Yukichi Fukuzawa. He went to France to persuade the French. Please do something, Mr. France. Mr. France, you hate England, right? So let's fight together. That's what he said. Well, he's right. France had a feeling of hatred towards England at that time because France lost to Britain. They were kicked out of America. If they had the chance, they'd always want to beat them to a pulp. I've always had that feeling. But even so, they don't want to be on the losing side. So, in France's opinion but do you have the strength to fight a good war? That's what they were saying. They weren't that enthusiastic about it at that time. But then, there was a battle where the American army finally defeated the British army. It was like a J. Curie. When France heard this news, it said, oh, then let's do it. So they agreed to join them. The American Revolutionary War, which was treated as a civil war, turned into an international conflict. And this fateful battle that started it all, it's called the Battle of Saratoga. It happened in 1777. So, the way to remember is, hey, isn't that plate pointy? I think it's better if you remember it like that. There's a small episode related to this Saratoga battle. On the American side, there was a man who was fighting and was named General Arnold. He was very active, wasn't he? Unfortunately, he wasn't very fortunate in his working relationships. Even he won the Battle of Saratoga. When he heard that France will join the war, he was like, what? Because to him, the French were the ones who fought with all their might in the French and Indian War. How can they be on our side now? They said, I can't fight like that. That's why he fell into the darkness after this. He betrayed America and went to England. So, in America Arnold was treated as a symbol of betrayal even more than Judas. He was treated like shit. If it weren't for this General Arnold, they probably wouldn't have won the Battle of Saratoga. So he's in a complicated position. He was just an easy person to beat for the Americans. Maybe it was right to throw all kinds of hate at him. But from today's point of view, it's probably complicated, isn't it? Well, as Japanese, I don't have any idea about these feelings. I don't understand it at all. Well, that's enough of the petite episode for now. France joined the tournament. After this, Spain also entered the war, right? They're both Bourbon dynasties, you know. Well, for details, please refer to the War of the Spanish Succession. After this, the Dutch also entered the war. I guess I should make up for my grudge from the Anglo-Dutch War. That's why. The Netherlands also entered the war. So by that time, it had changed entirely from civil war to an international war. But things that are not good for Britain will continue to happen after this. For example, in Russia, there's a Russian emperor named Yekaterina II. She led the war between Russia, Sweden, Denmark, Prussia, and Portugal. We will not participate in this war. It's called the Armed Neutral Alliance. In effect, they're already supporting the US. They did not take sides with the British anymore. That's what they declared here. And it's not just that. Volunteers from all over the world are coming to America to help the Americans. The most famous ones are Lafayette and Kosciuszko. These guys are famous, aren't they? Lafayette is another great guy. He's from a wealthy aristocratic family in France. I told you that Benjamin Franklin went to France to persuade him. And he listened to this story of Benjamin Franklin. He was impressed by it. He went to America at his own expense. And he was 19 years old at that time. He'd only been out of high school for about a year. He said, "I'm going to save America." He paid for it and crossed the Atlantic by himself. And of course, the people around me were very much against it. Well, that's true, isn't it? I'm sending my son, at the age of 19, to a world I don't know at all. I'm going to help him. If I told him to go, he would generally oppose it. But still, shut up. So he went. He's going to America. And the amazing thing is that he came back with a successful career. He was a key person, wasn't he? In that battle, well, he touched on American independence based on the social contract theory. Well, his sense of values in life changed a lot. And after that, the French Revolution happened in France. He played an important role in that revolution. But that's another story. As you can see, the United States received enthusiastic support from people in other countries. They finally won the Battle of Yorktown. The British surrendered. The Revolutionary War was practically over with this victory. Finally, in 1783 the Treaty of Paris, which was a peace treaty for this war of independence, Britain reluctantly recognized the independence of America. And the United States of America became officially independent. And upon hearing the news of the Treaty of Paris, the American people shouted loudly, "We are independent and free from troubles." The Treaty of Paris of 1783 gave us independence from our troubles. I think it would be better if you remember it as freedom from troubles. I hope you can remember that. So, you see, the American War of Independence will significantly impact the world in the future. For example, in France, the fact that it participated in this war, its financial difficulties were accelerated by this and triggered the French Revolution. The British lost their American colonies. The British colonial empire, called the First Empire, collapsed because of this. Well, it made the country lose its power. In the end, the rise of Napoleon of France. He left many influences behind him. History never stops at some point. If something happens, something else will happen. That's another interesting thing about history. It's one of the best parts of studying history. But you know what? I want to finish the story of the road to American independence for now. If you have any thoughts on this topic, I'd be thrilled if you could leave a comment in the comment box. And then there's the rest. If you like world history, please watch my other videos. I'm also pleased about that. So that's it for this time. I hope you find this video interesting and informative. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Please like and subscribe to my channel. See you soon.